Okay, it's turn 13. Let's jump straight to the news of the turn, which is that Tin and Og, the elves, the historical enemies of the Fomorians, have gone in to assist their Fomorian cousins by attacking Yomi. Now, whether or not this is assistance for Fomoria, or whether it's motivated just by the fact that this is a good time to strike Yomi to mitigate threats, and then they'd maybe swallow up Fomoria later, it's hard to say. But this is certainly being presented as an opportunity to stop Yomi from destroying Fomoria. And we can see what Tin and Og has brought in. They attacked 4 provinces this turn, one with a mixture of Tuatha and Bolg, and I'm pretty sure that's the mix for most of them. Yeah, 23 Tuatha here with a couple of slingers, 16 Tuatha here, again with a couple of slingers, and 1 lonely she warrior, who is the non-sacred elven recruitable unit they get at this point. And then 1 group slammed straight into a Dione, who may have been anticipating this. So this is follower of the Coward's Sword, the Dione, who is a Fire 3, Earth 2, Death 3 Dione. This is a big group of Tuatha warriors. Let's see if they get blessed. No? We're doing this unblessed, are we? Alright, we're doing this unblessed. Mind you, Tuatha unblessed are still attack 14, defense skill 17. They do 18 piercing damage at a relatively high attack value. They've got decent hit points, and of course they have glamour, which means the defense skill is actually higher than is represented. And because those spears are golden, the ghost form of the Oni won't matter to them at all. It's a built-in magic weapon. So they're not hell-herdings. The problem comes when they have to face up against the Dione, and you saw the problem there, which is they rout off. Now, they were already going to have trouble. They're not doing enough damage to consistently get through the protection any more than a chip fashion, and even that chip damage is reduced further by the pierce-resistant skeletal body nature of the Dione, and the Dione then regenerate. And there's a fire shield there as well, just for good measure. But the key problem here is that fear, regen, and pierce resistant on relatively high protection is a good way to keep your guy alive in the early game. Unless you can poke it in the head, which they weren't doing reliably. So those 2 are run. So 1 battle failed, losing 4 Tuatha, a she, some Bolg in the process. Yomi lost a couple of their free spawn Oni, and the attack was blocked. But in the other places, the attacks were successful. Let's cover off the rest of this war, and then we'll go through the entire turn. So Fomoria just poked to see if Yomi was still going to keep them under siege. The Forger of the Coward's Sword indeed has Laria under siege still. Here, this was interesting. Fomoria came out expecting to, I suppose, counter-raid and hold on to a province. Instead, they ran straight into one of Yomi's largest, if not largest, bundles of Oni at this point in the game. So 45 units and a Dione. Just lost those Bolg, which wasn't too much of a problem. And then on the capital, Yomi attacked just in case there was no PD and no patrol. Alas, there was indeed province defense. So that is a Demon Priest who went in and then retreated. This is the most disposable unit they presumably had around. One thing that is notable is that a huge Lord of the Forest was seen towering over the army. This means that Fomoria went dormant, and the dormant god is now awake. Sad, boring Titan, the Lord of the Forest. This is probably what Fomoria was waiting for when they decided to keep falling back. Either it was that or getting diplomatic support. With a Titan online, 1, they have a tool which they can potentially kit out to fight Dione, depending on how this boring Titan is built. Secondly, that incarnate element of the Blessed, which is probably regeneration, now that I see Lord of the Forest, is now online. So if Fomoria puts out some Sacreds, they'll be regenerating, their Fomorian Kings will now regenerate, and they have a chassis which they can turn into a possible counter-thug. What they'd really want is for someone to have gone construction or rushed construction and then hold out long enough for people to give them items that kill Dione, but there's no sign of those at the moment. We'll come back to this war. We'll do our turn feature on Tin and Og. Let's go through the rest of the list. Ignore me making monoliths. Atlantis poked Makuni. I believe this was... Not sure what's happening there. They're definitely not at war. Sauromatia clearing independence. Makoni being owned by 4 war elephants. It killed the war elephants, but they lost this. Losing the hoplites matters more because they're 29 resource and they're actually pretty decent troops for the early age, right? They're formation fighting, protection 17 long spear hoplites, which is pretty decent for 8 gold. but albeit for 29 resources. Decent line holders. And they can be promoted eventually. You just don't want that because then they lose their slave half upkeep status. Whoops, I didn't mean to watch that. But we can just see some elephants crush some people. And now, I'm not sure you'd actually convince an elephant to break a phalanx like that in real life with any real ease. And they do eventually run away and thus die. So GC will take this province now. It just cost him more infantry than he might have liked. We saw that. We saw that. Helheim clearing independence again, making it look easy because hell herdings are awesome. We saw this battle. What did Pangaea lose here? Pangaea didn't lose anything important, clearing off Horse Tribe. Like, a harpy, 4 maenads, boo-hoo. Saw that. Orm attacked independence was defeated. Unfortunately, they lost two reanimation casts of their national long dead. Now, I believe it was fixed so that EA Orm now gets EA Orm undead rather than MA Orm undead, who tend to be super heavily armored and have great swords. These guys, well, there's still some with great swords, it looks like. Yeah, this is the guy who who popularized EA Orm Long Dead, because you get this 21 damage greatsword, and there was a version, I believe, an MA Orm version, which has a even much heavier armor than this and is thus likely to survive. But EA Orm also has these dudes, who are dual-wielding skeletons. 12 prot, 11 attack, 16 damage broadsword, 18 damage axe. Long Dead with 2 attacks. Nice, huh? Nice stuff. So as far as Long Dead go, Long Dead are some of the chaffiest, trashiest troops in Dominions. Popularized by nations like Scalaria. But EA Orm Long Dead are actually pretty decent. The problem is they came up against Bone Tribe, who are capable of defeating them, and a Bone Tribe Reader, who is capable of reanimating skeletons as well. So 3 of their kills were actually on animated undead from the Bone Reader. Unfortunate. They'll need to send more. They'll need to send a lot more than this. That was not enough troops to clear that. That's where we're up to. Thrice-Horned Boar moving into Pangaea. I don't believe this is a war. I believe this is a greed, but we'll find out next turn. Atlantis moving on to Xibalba. So that was the war that started last turn. Beratos clearing out its war elephants without losing much. So the Colossi Warriors and the Beridian Spearmen did the job, I presume through the use of smart, javelin usage. TNN. Helheim clearing a crystal province. Now, this is actually notable. Pugria? It's Pugria. This is notable because Crystal, one, it's a good mage. Getting Crystal Amazons is a good mage to add to any national lineup, especially one that's relatively non-diverse like Helheim. The second thing is, this gives Helheim another source of recruitable flying sacreds, because Pegasus Riders are sacred and benefit from many of the same things in a bless that an elf does. So I would start recruiting those Pegasus Riders and give myself an air force. Sure, you can use Valkyries at other times, but Pegasus Riders, nice extra source, and you're going to be forting this and labbing it anyway, so you can recruit the Amazons. Hinnom attacked independence and won, losing a grab bag of random stuff. It was the turn for everyone had a thing out for elephants this turn. Everyone wanted elephants dead, and some succeeded more than others. Caelum cleared out some independence using Meria and Storm Knight, and then Sauromatia bumped them, so we'll go back to that in a moment. Relay moved in on Zhibalba as well. Tell me that was close to the last move of the turn. Agartha on Ulm. I'll find out about that one for us. When people move in, assume that it's going to take me a turn to figure out if it's a war or not, and then we're in events. Okay, so things that do constitute clear wars. 1. Relay has decided, oh, well, if Atlantis is murdering Zhibalba, I may as well come in and help murder them. So they've pinched off this province here. And I presume they have 2 choices here. They can either send their slave guardians into the capital and risk bumping with these 2 basalt kings and 2 groups of mercenaries. There's some Battle Brothers shit going on here. We've got a whole bunch of mercenaries that are presumably about to move in on the Zhibalban cap, supported by basalt kings and a couple of warriors of the deep. I'm glad they hired the mercenaries because they don't have much stuff here. I'm nervous about this unless they have more units to shield and screen the Basalt Kings. Your units will do well against Xibalba, right? I'd move more of them up. Warriors, Living Pillars is an interesting choice. we'll talk about this later, or in another episode perhaps. Anyway, so Relay has come in. They can choose the bump, or alternatively, they can take this very expensive island province from the barbarians, or they can just sit here. Either way, it's Relays now, apparently. There we go. And the other thing was there was this bump here. Now, Caelum didn't need a bump at this point. Caelum has 3, 6, 7, 8, 9 provinces. That would have been province number 10 on turn 13. Sauromatia, meanwhile, is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 provinces. So Sauromatia is in a much better place. They've taken far fewer losses. They have Sacreds out, and a bump is the last thing Caelum needed right now, but a bump is what they got, deliberate or otherwise. So this is a Sauromatian mixed cavalry group. It is a mixture of the Lancers and the Oropada. We've talked about this before. Blessed Oropada with a solid Rainbow Bless. The key things here are the Defense skill and the Blood Surge, are the things that are going to be most useful against Caelumites. And all they were really facing was a couple of Maria and the Storm Knight. The troops are not a problem at all. And the Storm Knight is good, but he's already routed. Which is funny. There you go, considering he has increased morale. He has morale 28, and he is still fleeing, which is the right call in the circumstances. Now, his advantage was high built-in protection, high defense skill. His defense skill has been harassed down, harassed penalty -9. Down to 6 hit points, 5. Is he going to get away? Yes, by the skin of his teeth. So if I was Sauromatia and I've arrived here, I'm like, well, this is a small Caelum. I don't know, I might be finding out if Caelum has gone to a long way to the south, maybe, by talking to the others, but this is a small Caelum, and with my Oropada positioned here and here, this is a tempting situation, especially with an unforted throne right here. We'll see if Sauromatia decides to capitalize, or whether they choose to play nice. But you could, if you wanted to negotiate, you could get a heck of a deal as Sauromatia in this position. But I think Caelum has suffered so much that unless they can do some feverish diplomacy and find some friends in this situation, they're in serious danger from the Sauromatians, and possibly from others too. But the real focus for the turn is TNN. So TNN, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Small until this turn. Small as in like Caelum size, not huge. And yet, reasonable number of foot sacreds. Why intervene? Why not? Well, okay, so TNN had 3 potential enemies once this war began. Caelum, through this narrow slip here, became an elongated coastal nation. Agartha, or they could have attacked Yomi, which is what they've chosen to do while Yomi is in a war. What's the matchup like versus Yomi? Well, it depends, right? It depends what you're researching, what you're getting together, but with only 1 fort, I'm not sure how much research TNN has done to this point. Enough Tua warriors can probably kill a Dione. They don't have trouble with the ghost form. What they have problem with is doing enough damage to actually kill the thing through pierce resistant, regen, high prot in the time it takes, in the time before fear routs them off. So that's problematic. So what I would be doing as TNN is, what Yomi values are their temples. All these unforted temples, all these beautiful, glorious, unforted temples. If I was TNN, I would ditch the Fearbolg. The Fearbolg are not going to help you. They are not going to kill Dione. Yomi is not going to bring a massive Oni at you, probably. So go Tua and She and burn all these temples to the ground, and you will get Yomi coming to the table. And then, if as you're burning them, you happen to get a Dione appear in a province where you have a critical mass, have them attack current province, stab that Oni, and then fade away. Yomi at this time has their resources attached, or at least partially attached, to the Fomorian front. They've just had Fomoria's God wake up. They've got Fomorian kings active. There's a growing group of troops in Fomoria. Some of them could be Numidian warriors. They've got a fort that they need to break and take, and they've got a capital they need to break and take. They're going to be playing defense against you at the moment. because all they've got is one Dione out on your front, and then have they recruited another one? No, so there's not another one up this turn. It'll take another turn for another one to be up. So you can have more groups, like 10 to 15 to at most, to one stealthy leader, and just hit fade and ruin the Yomian countryside. And if they come for your capital, then you've got options so far as what you can throw at them. But they're always going to be nervous because they always might be landing on a Tuatha landmine. I'm not sure what TNN has other than Tuatha warriors at this point that would be super good against the Dione. I mean, obviously the answer is either you get the appropriate magic or you build a counter thug. It wouldn't take too much to build some like high magic damage guys that are armor piercing and something like slashing rather than piercing to cut down some Dione. So I'm thinking some great swords of sharpness on a couple of stealthy dudes who can jump in and ruin their day. These are the options. But diplomatically, I understand this. I'm not sure if as I said, I'm not sure if it's to save Fomoria or more. The fact that Yomi looked like it was scary, a Yomi that ate Fomoria would be a potential enemy, and that TNN is lacking in easy potential enemies at the moment. They probably don't want to fight Agartha with Yomi as a potential threat later on, and they've decided to attack while this war is on. Anyway, interesting feature. I'm going to cut forward a turn. We're going to progress these wars, and then after a few turns, we'll do a graph and diplomacy check-in as normal. See you in turn 14. All right, turn 14. Let's see what happens. There was a battle in Ashington, and as we expected, Fomoria is rolling out with their kings now that they have their bless. Let's quickly check what that bless is. $10 says regen. Oh, and he's got some gear. Icemist Scimitar, Horror Helmet, and Ranger's Boots. So this is a Fear 8. Icemist Scimitar's okay. It gives you cold resistance, and it's got decent values, and it gives you magic damage that, most importantly, is slashing rather than piercing. So this helps them get past the pierce-resistant problem. And then you've got this AN magical frost fatigue damage as well. I'll have to check if Dione are frost-resistant. I have a feeling they might be, but I'm not sure if that's just undead or demons as well. It might just be undead, actually. So anyway, Icemist Scimitar, Ranger's Boots for a little bit of reinvigoration. Basically a low-tech boot of the Messenger. And a reinvigoration build. So the encumbrance is partially mitigated, and regen of 7 hit points per turn for this Fomorian. And is he going to do attack rear? He's going to... Oh, he landed in the middle of the troops anyway. He's taken a little bit of damage, because his prot is only 18, but he's going to rout everyone off regardless. Now, one disadvantage of going down to the Icemist Scimitar is this is only going to count as a length 2 weapon for the purpose of repel. Leng 2. So, actually can't repel a lot of things that the Fomorian Kings usually would, but that's okay, because this is not a repel build and bless. It's a regen build. TNN. Ooh, TNN killed a Dione with a big block of Tuatha warriors. Are we blessing this time, TNN? Yeah, we are. Oh, evidently not all of them. Okay. Yeah, poison resistance plus 15, HP plus 2. Either full scales or an imprisoned bless. Now, Dione has completed his buff script, and he's going in. And he's just getting surrounded and taken too much. Down to 14. Down to 10, he's broken, and when he breaks, his defense skill plummets, and Ghost Form will not save him. Ouch. So, for 8 Tuatha warriors, a Dione is slain. And considering one was recruited this turn, that's a net nothing for Yomi, but they take 2 turns to recruit. Sauromatia, however, has attacked Caelum. So, 2 provinces taken. TNN took another province from Yomi. Sauromatia took a 3rd province from Caelum. Hinom's clearing independence. TNN took another province from Yomi. Fomoria attacked Yomi but was defeated, so a Dione managed to hold off a Fomorian king and 30 Fear Bolg and 18 Numidian warriors. This is impressive. Same gearing. This seems to be the standard Fomorian gearing. Ice Mist, Fear Helmet, And it's up against a small amount of PD. So they have brought the Numidians. The Numidians are basically unblessed Tuatha. They are unblessed Tuatha warriors. But they are available to Fomoria. So the PD is all dead. Why have the armies of Fomoria routed? Let's try that one more time. I don't see a Fomorian king. Oh, did the Fomorian king fly to the back and die? Yes, okay. So he comes in and straight away he gets king hit. Dione hit Fomorian king in the body with Enchanted Nodachi for 32 points of damage. Attack roll 32 versus defense 20. Damage roll 37 base plus a 10 on the DRN. Against 16 prop plus 5 on the DRN. 26 upgraded to 32 for slashing. That is punishing. That said, not unusual because Dione have 21 attack, or this Dione has 21 attack with that Enchanted Nodachi. They hit hard and they hit reliably. And you're not going to regen through that. Is there any damage being done back? 35 damage. 7 regen, and then here comes the next swing. Oh, he was blocked by ore. Fascinating. Diane, are you going to swing anytime soon? Oh, you're asleep. Okay, so this guy is like, whoa, man, I can't strike this magnificent creature. And then he runs from the fear. When the Dione was literally asleep, he was like, man, now that I see him passed out on the ground, I am terrified. And leaves. And because he leaves, this giant pool of Numidians and Bolg decides to run for it. Where was that? Battle of Strongdale. Okay, at least they had a retreat path. Otherwise, that would have been freaking tragic. So there's 2 Fomorian kings now here in Ashington. Meanwhile, Yomi moved a Dione onto the capital. So Fomoria is now out of income. Net zero. No dollars coming in. And Yomi's economy will be partially supported from all the damage TNN is doing by pilfering Fomoria's economy. This fortification is still not breached, however. Hinnom poking some independence. Yomi attacking Fomoria, we saw this. Oh! PD dump. Okay, so this is Atlantis. Atlantis has partially geared Basalt King, so it's just simple. Hat, armor. Just a prot tank dude. And then a Basalt King who doesn't even have a hat. This guy's just full body black steel. Do we have anyone to bless them? Yes, we do. So they're now regenerating natural protections. This is 31 prot. And the idea here is going to be similar to the Dione. Survive long enough to fear out people. And there come the bats. So these guys are a mixture of, well, these are the completely naked and semi-useless bats. 9 damage, Stone Lance, attack 10, defense 9, 7 hit points, 0 prot. But there's a lot of them. They get a lance on the first strike, and what they're going to do is they murder all the mercs. And I bet by murdering all the mercs, they're going to HP rout the Basalt Kings. Because they'll really struggle to do any damage to the Kings. Yeah, the Kings are routed. So if the bats were smart, the bats would back off and the Kings would just run. But if you're hitting for 9 damage against protection 31, you're not getting anywhere. So this is going to happen. What's going to happen is, yeah, the Kings rout off enough of the bats that they're able to flee, but not all of the bats, so Xibalba wins. And because this is PD, this is all free and will come back. How much PD is that? Is that like 50? 45 PD. So Atlantis loses all of its siege shaft to a PD dump. Meanwhile, Relay comes in and throws away 21 slave guardians. That's actually not too bad. Killing 58 barbarians. That's actually a good trade. I'm happy with that. Sure, it's only 45 gold, but it's a province that'll pay off eventually. It means that they're not competing for the Zhibalban capital. So Xibalba stands for another turn, which gives them one more turn of recruitment. We'll see what they recruit. If I was them, you're recruiting things that hit really, really hard because you need a way to kill the Basalt Kings. So you want the poison on the big scorpions. You want sun guides who hit really, really hard. Things with the 2-handed obsidian weapons, maybe. Like things that can do enough damage that you can conceivably injure one. And what was the last one? Oh, I heard about this. Okay, so Xibalba is being allowed to transit back home, I believe, by Makoni in order to resist the Atlantean offensive. So, who's our feature for this turn? I actually think it has to be Sauromatia. Sauromatia will be our feature for turn 14. I know that there's an argument for focusing on the Yomi War. My summary here is TNN is taking more ground than they're losing, but Fomoria is on the clock. With no income and both provinces under siege, Yomi might have the ability to liquidate and destroy Fomoria and then slowly turn everything on TNN. But TNN does have the capacity, if they're smart about where they go, to do a good amount of damage, to burn down infrastructure. They've secured this entire flank, which is good. No temples for Yomi over here, but what they really need to do is burn the temples in the heartland and even work down to the south, because this is where Yomi is going to be constructing its infrastructure at the moment, unabated. So you might even want to kill the Buckamorna show or stealth through here and start burning the south, just harrowing of the south. But let's talk about Sauromatia. Sauromatia expanded well because they've got blessed, capable Oropada supported by cheap, affordable Lancer cavalry. They expanded well and then discovered that their neighbour, the Caelians, were relatively weak. At that point, it was have a good deal with them or kill them. Killing them has a lot of things in favour of it. For the first part, Caelum can be really, really annoying as a strategic threat later in the game because birds are annoying. Birds have the ability to jump several provinces deep. They are unparalleled raiders. If they decide to alpha strike you, then a lot of your empire may be gone on turn 1. And once Caelum gets it gets into the mid game, their air power is, I mean that in the context of air magic, is hard to beat. Storms, air elementals, like recruitable air mages so powerful that they can put out thunder strikes and air elementals in storm conditions and have their weaker mages storm power and add yet more thunder strikes. They've got a lot going for them under certain circumstances. Let's look at them very quickly. So the Eagle King is a recruitable Air 4 who can very rare random Air 5, but Air 4 is enough, and they can support them with Area Seraphs who can then storm power to Air 3. Not bad. They have a little bit of Air Death Cross, which is promising for later on. A little bit of Fire and Holy, and they've got a Air 1 Research Monkey. Not bad. Not a bad lineup. Anyway, crushing Caelum early gives some Sauromatia. There's a lot in favour for Sauromatia. For the one thing, it doesn't actually lengthen Sauromatia's borders much at all. Sauromatia's border in the south was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and soon to be 6 provinces. That was how many provinces they had. In fact, before they took this one, this province was actually even 2 longer, which gave Caelum reach all the way in, well, to Sauromatia's capital, for one thing. If you take all of Caelum, your border is now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's the same. It's pretty much the same. And yet you've absorbed a large nation. You lengthen your coastline very slightly with the water nations. Who cares? They're not coming after you as Sauromatia. Also, you secure a throne. Do you know it's the Iron Throne? Probably not. Does the Iron Throne help you? Yes, the Order Thrones always help you. So, opportunity for an economy, opportunity for a quick war against a weak opponent, especially when your alternatives are doing things like striking against Helheim, who's going to be very powerful, or Hinnom. That said, weakening your powerful neighbours has an argument for it. The other option Sauromatia had was they probably could have gotten a peace with Caelum because Caelum was weak, and gone up here and they could have put the nail into the Yomi coffin. But from a sheer selfish perspective, securing a throne, a capital, and consolidating your nation, solid moves on the part of Sauromatia. So that's turn 14. I'll be back shortly with turn 15, and then we'll see if we do a check-in at that point. Okay, it's turn 15. Let's jump into it. Oops, that wasn't the first one. Orm has attacked Beratos. I'll come back to that in a moment because this is the beginning of a new war. Pangaea cleared independence. Fomoria can't catch a break. So Fomoria runs their Numidian warriors and their Bolg into... So Fomoria tries to free Fomoria itself and is unfortunately defeated. They do manage to break out a little bit, so they have 2 provinces, but Fomoria itself is still under siege by 2 Dione. And this fortification is breached. Oof. Okay, so Fomoria is in a difficult position at this point. Relay attacked Independence but was defeated. Let's have a look at Relay, because we haven't had much Relay. Look at this big pool of fishy mine blasters. These are Giboleths. Giboleths are underwater-only mine blasters, led by an Aboleth, who is an underwater-only mage. And they have some shitty Lobo guards, and these guys are Polypal Spawn. Polypal Spawn are free spawn, Relay and free spawn, produced by mothers and grandmothers. Unfortunately, there is not enough chaff here to block, and I'm betting that what's going to happen is the Amber Clan are going to get into the back and murder these expensive mine blasters. Oh, paralyzed some of them, but enough of them made it through. That is unfortunate. At least they run. Thankfully, they run, but I'm thinking there's still some losses there. Oof, 13 Giboleths. More than 500 gold lost. Whereas these guys are worth 120, and Polypal Spawn are worth nothing. So Amber Clan are brutal, guys. Don't underestimate Amber Clan, because they'll mess you up. We saw Fomoria breaking out. Beratos losing to Woodhenge Druids, but looks like killing most of them. Killing all but one commander, so they'll get there eventually. Caelum doing what they can to counter-aid Sauromatia, but Sauromatia are attacking Caelum back. Helheim still killing Independence. Helheim's getting big, boys. TNN attacked Yomi and won. Meconi attacked Independence. TNN attacked Yomi and won. Atlantis just poked Zhibalba in Pangaea to see what was there and was killed. Sauromatia taking a Caelum province. Sauromatia taking a Caelum province. Yomi from TNN. Okay, so let's go through the wars quickly. Firstly, Ulm attacking Beratos. Where have they attacked them? They've attacked them here. It's a Thrice-Horn Boar and a couple of warriors, and they placed a fort under siege. Now, my understanding is that Helheim and Meconi are both in on this war as well. So the rich coastal province of, zone of Beratos, who, by the way, is no longer income tracing to these three provinces, that's brutal, Ulm, that's brutal, is about to be invaded by elves, by Meconi, and by the Ulmish troops through this direction here, I presume, for Ulm. Bit of an awkward war for Ulm, but it means maybe lower risk for them. This is an interesting choice. It's an interesting choice by all involved. I think the biggest beneficiary of this is Helheim, because Helheim is in a position where people might want to counter it because it's getting big and powerful. Being able to join a coalition for a war and get even bigger while removing a potential rival in the form of Beratos, fantastic. As for Ulm and Meconi, going in together makes it more likely they'll be able to win. Beratos as a target, nominally, were it not for the fact that you might want to contain Helheim at this point, because Helheim is huge and stretched and thus partially vulnerable, is that Beratos is a late-game power par excellence. It has a fantastic blood economy, it has some great summons, it has the ability to turn out a lot of money from its coastal infrastructure, and then Blood Hunt support it and drive itself into the late game in a really, really big way. Blood summonable Melkarts will do that. Plus they have access to a whole bunch of really cool summons as well. Demons and whatnot. So knocking them out early seems like a good idea. The Beridian army is decent, but not fantastic, and if you can get to them before they have air elementals, then Meconian troops are arguably demonstrably superior. Ulmish troops are definitely superior, and Hell Herdings will rip them apart. So I think this will come down to how quickly the Alliance is able to carry out the war. Fast enough that you get there before Beratos gets its research online? Good. Beratos has Conjuration 5 or some other air magic, then they can make you bleed for it. But, basic premise, taking Beratos out of the game early, I like it. I just am worried, or I would be worried if I was in this game, about the prospect of enabling Helheim to grow. Also look at what Pangaea decides to do while this war is going on. They could, for example, strike either Ulm or Helheim while they are distracted and position themselves as like the major central power of this map. So far as the war with Yomi, Fomoria, etc., Fomoria is in a bad way. This fort looks like it's about to be assaulted. Fomoria itself is under siege, so Fomoria hasn't been recruiting and is getting by without any income for the moment. Having one of its kings killed here, so it's down to one, is ultimately problematic. like in a big way. So Fomoria is going to be in a bad way no matter how this war ends. TNN, however, is doing a decent enough job. They're raiding, they're controlling the number of provinces Yomi has, but I don't think the pace of damage is sufficient to really hold Yomi back. Yomi is counter-raiding a little bit. They're scoring a win here and there. The Dione haven't really been killed yet except for one. One was lost to Tuatha. But unless the temples are burned and Yomi itself is sacked, then eventually Yomi is just going to be able to conquer Fomoria's territory and then concentrate more on TNN. If I was Yomi, I think what I need to do is I need to predict and then kill one or two Tuatha groups. Every time I take a raiding group out of the game, my situation gets a little bit better, and I definitely need to conquer Laria, and then eventually, I know it's 500 wall integrity, but I need to think of a way. At least I'll keep Fomoria locked down, maybe with one Dione once I kill the last of these parties. Eventually I can come back and remove it. Finally, the Zhibalban Atlantean War. With 45 PD and a lot of Scorpions, we'll see when Atlantis has time. The fact that Xibalba is out doing a little bouncing around, making life difficult, is characterful. I like it. The fact that we've got a lot of Xibalban guards, they're okay. What I really want to see are these guys, Sun Guides, with the larger damage. That said, 19 damage against 31 prot, you're still going to need armor-defeating hits to hurt them reliably. But that's just the way it is. And the big Scorpions are obviously another option. So there we go. Atlantis is in a strong position. They need to bring up more of these troops. The use of Warriors of the Deep I like. The use of Living Pillars. So Living Pillars usually aren't used by Atlantis, is my understanding. They're interesting. They're incredibly resource intensive. 56 resources. 56. So, oof. Only 35 gold. Not that expensive for a sacred. You get 21 prot, but you get abysmal defense and 10 encumbrance. That is abysmal defense. 5. A little bit of harassment. They may as well be asleep because they're wearing stone armor. Shamblers are stronger than humans proportionally, but there is a reason humans throughout history did not wear stone armor. The value relative to the weight just isn't there. What they do give you is they do have a basalt spear, but so do other deep ones. High damage, multiple attacks, decent attack skill, high protected, and because they're sacred, they'll take the bless, they'll regenerate. But I think they're so hard to mass and they're so high encumbrance that they're eventually going to be brought down by armor defeating hits. That said, they'll be very tough for the first few rounds of combat. They will not take much damage from Zots. They will regenerate the chip damage they take. I'm worried about numbers. Numbers and the number of Zots that they will kill. Anyway, we're at turn 15, and that means it's time for a quick graph check-in. Observations. Well, what are we noticing? Helheim in the lead on provinces. Who else is making a name for themselves? Yeah, so Makoni's coming in fourth. Beratos was the second runner, but has lost a little bit. Sauromatia shooting their way to second with the invasion of Caelum, as Caelum has dropped right off, particularly as Sauromatia has invaded and picked up a whole bunch of clay in the process. See how those graphs mirror each other. Bunch of middle runners, so Pangaea's in there, Ulm's in there, Atlantis is in there, Relay's a bit low. Xibalba obviously suffering right down the bottom, Fomoria suffering. Yomi only in the middle. Yomi has lost a lot of territory on net since this war began, mostly because TNN's taking it all. Fort infrastructure, there's really only two tiers. You have one or you have two. The income is interesting. So that'll be Beratos on top, even with their little losses. But Sauromatia is now number 1 on income. And is that Helheim running third? I'd be scared of a Helheim running third on income. Who else have we got? We've got Makoni running in fourth. Solid showing from Makoni. Relay in fifth. Not bad given their limited territories. Gem incomes. Woof. Who is that? That's Sauromatia looting Caelum's gem stockpile while searching effectively. So Sauromatia, clear winners on the gem count. Makoni in third. Is that Helheim in second? Yomi, Caelum, etc. down the bottom as all their land has been raided. Relay sitting down the bottom as well. Atlantis in the middle. Xibalba in the pits, presumably. And then Hinnom in all of these has been solid, like run a middle of the road. Like Hinnom's not offending anyone. Hinnom is middle of provinces, middle of income, middle of gems. What about research? Relay, going like a rocket ship. They're researching. I love slave mages, and clearly Bolenstalen does too. Who else have we got? We've got Fomoria, I think, still in second. Yeah, Fomoria is still researching in second, so they must have things going on in their capital. Who else have we got? Ulm in tied for third. Was that Caelum that was doing well? No, Caelum was down there. Maconi in the pits. Who else is in the pits? Atlantis is in the pits. Well, an early rush will do that. But Atlantis has researched almost nothing. Like, almost nothing has been researched by Atlantis. Interesting, if there's a water fight later, the fact that Atlantis has barely started researching, like, this might be one research mage compared to Relay spitting it out. I imagine this is because they've spent all their cap turns on Basalt Kings that have gone out either site searching or rushing people. Beratos in the middle. I'm not sure how that relates to their research targets. Hinnom's slightly above them, but again, Hinnom's sitting in the middle of the pack. TNN there. And Yomi was doing fine because it was powered by the statue, but it looks like now all Yomi has researching is the statue. Problematic. Dominion scores, not a huge amount to say. It's Helheim in the clear lead, and Yomi's was getting really good, but now it's falling off because of the cost of the war. And finally, army size. The Omniscience still absolutely dominating the game, so clearly I'm going to take over the world. Relay lost a bunch of troops that turn, we know that. Maconi's got one of the larger armies, Ulm's got one of the larger armies. Agartha has one of the larger armies. I'll make sure I feature them in a future episode. Sauromatia's in the middle, but they'll be quality. Fomoria's army is basically gone. Helheim's army is on the smaller end, but they're hell-hurtings. Nothing more to be said. So where are we at the turn of 15? We've got a couple of wars going now. 3, really. You have the conflict where Atlantis is rushing Xibalba, and it looks like Relay's not getting more involved, so it's probably just going to be Atlantis 1v1ing Xibalba, now that everyone else has taken their pound of flesh. You've got Sauromatia, 4 wars. Sauromatia 1v1ing a much weaker Caelum. Caelum putting up like what resistance they can, but ultimately Sauromatia is going to be able to spit out groups of lancers and oropatas relatively quickly, and they can beat the equivalent forces that Caelum is able to put together as long as they're smart with their scripting so they don't get attack reared. And you can see that the Caelian Empire is falling relatively quickly. If these provinces fall, then it's only a matter of time until Caelum itself is put under siege, I think. Caelum might have a miracle, but there's just a big materiel edge here, and we've seen Caelum lose their army too many times. The Fomorian/TNN war against Yomi is interesting. One, because we've got historical rivals allied with each other, like mutual sons of Partholonia, or with Partholonian relatives anyway, fighting off the Japanese demons. It's an interesting situation. Yomi is holding it together, but it's a big ask. Raiders, like elves, are hard to deal with, and TNN has taken a swath of territory. Fomoria itself, however, is being overrun. This is a question of, is TNN able to ambush a few more Dione and break the Yomian economy, or is Yomi able to guess where elves are going, catch some elvish groups, destroy them, while also neutralizing what's left of Fomoria to enable them to start counterattacking? They're not going to be able to counterattack unless they're able to kill a couple of these raiding groups. And the final thing is our first big coalition war. That's a smaller coalition conflict, but it counts. A potential 3v1, Ulm, Maconi, and Helheim against Beratos. And from the starting blocks, you can see a big-ass Beridian army in their capital. My question is, which way will they go? And what is their research path been so far? Are we going to see demons being spat out of this wasteland, which they have forted? Are we going to see early air research to take advantage of the fact that there are 3 air gems in this province, plus 3 they get from their capital, so at least 6 air per turn income? Handy. Who knows? You'll find out in turn 16. This has been turn 15 of what is it? Hubris is a coward's word. See you next time.